everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's awesome guest is Karla Degginger with the Talent Loop. Karla and the Talent Loop are on a mission to change the way people work and the way companies hire. They focus on your core values and the company's core values to find a good connection between individuals with the companies that hold the same values. So that way you can build relationships for long-term to success, not to just do a job. I love this because I tell my clients, if you don't get excited every morning to get out of bed, if you're living for the weekend, if you dread Mondays, then you're not working your dream job. So Karla and I talk about that. So let's go and say hello to Karla. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhide, health coach and personal trainer and founder of HighEnergyGirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Create Whole Body Wellness, a powerful new advancement in energy medicine. Increase your energy, empower your life. I am super excited to announce that I am now a bioenergetics practitioner. And many people are like, well, what is bioenergetics? So imagine that our body is controlled by our energy field, and these fields get distortions and blockages, which create physical and emotional symptoms. So how do we get energy blockages? From stress, toxins, EMFs, emotional traumas, physical scars, and physical traumas. All you need to do is decode the human body field to get to the root cause and restore your energy for life. For more information, head on over to the blog at highenergygirl.com/bioenergetics with an X. That's BIOENERGETIX, and heal your energy for life. Hey, Karla, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Hi, Tracy. It's great to be here.
I'm excited to chat with you, my dear. So for the listeners that don't yet know you, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, my name's Karla Degginger, and I am the founder of the Talent Loop. And I actually tried to launch the company in 2020 amongst obviously turmoil, but going back a little bit, or actually about 30 years, I started out in science and engineering, and I started in the big food industry as a quality assurance manager, director for about 10 years, and learned a lot working with a lot of the big food companies all over the world, and but knew that's not what I wanted to do long term. I transitioned into staffing and recruiting for the last about 20 years, and worked in the same industries trying to find talent for manufacturing, and loved the relationships I built with people, and that was my favorite part of working with them and solving problems. I knew that we were always fighting the black holes of resumes and trying to get people through the system and in front of a human, and finally just thought, the best talent is rarely ever matched with the best opportunity because they can't find each other, and decided it was time to create a new process. And in 2018, I was giving, great clarity on a vision for a new hiring process, and I call it the Talent Loop. Current hiring process is driven by the companies and by their job openings. I start focusing on the individual, because what we're trying to do long term, and the foundation of everything we do, is we connect on core values. So we're connecting individuals and companies based on core values first. There's no resumes, there's no job ads. Let's make the connection there, because that's where the most successful work is performed. That's where the most fulfilling work is for the person. That's where the most successful work is for the company, is that everyone shares the same values to pursue the mission of the company or the purpose. So that's where we start. We build a foundation. I take people through, if they join our community, they can actually go through a course called Your Dream Job Strategy. And that's the key. It's a strategy. It's not luck. It's not trying to figure out how to get some in a system. You build a strategy based on your core values, what you're not going to compromise, and you build fulfilling work around that. I always say it's not about titles. It's not about bullet points. It's about your core values. I call it the other CV. And so kind of in a nutshell, that's where how the talent loop came to be. And that's where we are now. A rough launch in 2020, but we're moving forward. There's some exciting new things on the horizon. I learned a few months ago about new companies and new technologies that are going to be opening up to us. And I knew that's the companies, or the bulk of the companies, that we want to serve and that we want to bring our talent to.
Absolutely. Isn't it exciting, But I love that you said bringing the personal values, because that to me is at the underlying being of a person. And I love that idea. That is so unique, Karla.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, thanks. And, but, 20 years, hopefully in 20 years, I figured out, I always knew that the companies I knew the best, that I really loved to recruit for, I knew their culture. And so when I would interview a person, I'd be, oh, you've got the same core values. You would be great for this company, or I would know they wouldn't be great based on that. But I always knew that was the most successful hires. But that was never where it started, Mm-hmm. And I'm like, let's quit wasting our time on creating resumes and interviews and all this until we know it's a match at the foundation. So and that's where we go with our course, because people, when they're searching for a job, and I always joke about, I actually wrote an article on it a couple years ago to stop hide and seek hiring, because we're always trying to find a job and we're always trying to find a person. And I'm like, let's quit trying to find them and let's build a system that connects them. So, but individuals tend to look at search job boards, and they find jobs, and they try to find jobs that sound good to them, and then they try to match themselves to the job or to the company. And I said, quit doing that. Let's figure out what your values are, and then you match the job or the work to you.
Yeah, and then it will be a better fit long term, I would imagine, right?
Right. Yeah.
So let me ask you, how do you help people determine their core values if they don't know?
Exactly. So we take them through this course. Now, our talent community has, just a membership level that's a real low, it's $7 a month subscription, where I share a lot of information, and we're just really starting to roll on that. So there'll be more information as we go. If you actually purchase the course, on top of that, it's a 3-week course. And it takes you through 3 levels. And the first one, I call it's Dream Reality Plan. Those are the 3 modules. So the first one's Dream, and it's kind of where you started with your group. I say take a blank piece of paper in a beginner's mind and dream. And you put everything out of your mind that you ever thought, any preconceived, just dream what you really want to do. And so you go through that process and discover, you start discovering your core values. And I put questions as we go through that process. And one of them is always, what are you not willing to compromise? To start thinking about that and walking through that. I tell them to get rid of resume mentality. I say, forget about assessments and labels. If you've been labeled a certain personality type, or a certain, introvert, extrovert, all of that goes out the window, and you just dream. And wow. So we start there, really try to drill down and take them through that, so that at the end, there's 5 lessons on each module. At the end, they should start formulating their core values and start thinking differently. And I say the purpose of the course is to create your own hiring process, putting you in control. You're creating your hiring process. So then we go to reality. We do a reality check. Okay, we got your dream. Now where are you? And how did you get here? And so that's kind of a fun process for people, fun or can be discouraging. But when we get real about it and say, how did you end up where you are? Was it, I just had to get a job, had to pay the bills? Was it, well, I went to school and got this degree and my parents spent all this money, I have to do this? Or this is what everyone thinks you should be doing? Or have you been in a career path for so long that you're like, everyone will think I'm crazy if I change? So there's all kinds of reasons why we're where we landed. And I've heard them all. I mean, 20 years I've said and heard these. Or, I've seen the person that did go to school or got a trade or something they really loved that they wanted to do, and they never could find that job. So they ended up on another path. But down deep, they always wanted to go back and do that job, But it's like, well, I'm already 10 years down this path. How could I start all over again? So we go through that reality check and say, again, it's all possible.
Right. And I always tell my clients, if you don't wake up in the morning excited to get out of bed, but you just go, oh, and you hate Mondays and, you live for the weekend, then perhaps you need to look at a different type of career.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always say the exact same thing. I always say, if you're working 5 days to live for 2 days, there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
The TGIF and all that, I hate that. I'm like, it should be something to celebrate. Like, you need to celebrate every day, right? So exactly. So we do the reality. So we got the dream, we do a reality check, and then the third module is the plan. Okay. Now we know the gaps or the obstacles between dream and reality. Let's put together a plan to remove those obstacles or, fill in the gaps, whatever we need to do, and make it happen. And so part of that includes a resource center, which we are creating, and that's partnering with companies to help fill in those gaps, whatever that might be. Cool. And I've met a few people recently that I think are going to be really, they kind of got the same idea of a resource center in other areas. People like yourself that, I know wellness is going to be a big part of our resource center, because if you're not taking care of yourself, it doesn't matter what your job is or what your work is, you're not going to be at your optimal. So we'll be helping them break down those obstacles. And two of the biggest obstacles that I've seen for 20 years, number one is usually, maybe 1 and 2 together, is salary and benefits. But I would say benefits trump salary in a lot of cases. I've watched people not leave a job because they couldn't leave the benefits. So they stayed in a job they didn't care for. I've seen people leave a job they loved because the benefits weren't good enough. So I get so tired over all those years watching people not be able to truly pursue the work they want because they're pursuing benefits and salary.
Yeah.
And that makes their decision more than the job itself.
Right. They sacrifice their well-being for the paycheck and the benefits. That makes sense. I know somebody very closely who has a great paycheck but is not fulfilled in his work. And so it's like he feels stuck because he likes that paycheck. You know what I mean? Yep. So exactly. That's interesting. Now let's shift gears a little bit. So I'm really curious. So when I first started chatting with you offline or online, I guess, I got excited about the humanitarian stuff. So before I interject my ideas, let me know what you've already been inspired to do by yourself, maybe your spiritual downloads, your mentors and all of that, as far as the humanitarian efforts. I know our listeners has heard me, and my clients especially, have heard me talk a lot about humanitarian work that's going to be, upcoming. But can you just share a little bit about your thoughts with that?
Absolutely. So when I talk about the talent loop, we've got a talent community, we've got a resource center, and then we've got what I call client companies. And when I said I reversed the process, we get the individual's core values figured out, but then we have the companies. And one of our requirements is they have to qualify to be a client company that's allowed to access our talent community. So that piece of the talent loop always raises eyebrows. What? A company has to qualify to work for you? And I said, yes. Not only define their core values. They have to tell us how they align to them. And we have to know it's part of their strategy. Strategically, when you walk in that company, you can see it. You can feel it because they live and breathe it. And so that's been a little struggle for me to say, wow, I mean, there's companies like that, but not a lot. And where are they? And so that always was kind of in the back of my mind until I learned about humanitarian projects and also about new technologies that are coming. Some of them are already here. People just haven't heard about it, but there's more coming. And so when I started diving in, I'm like, there's the companies. These are the companies that are going to have those core values that people are going to they can't wait to go to work for them. So I thought the talent loop's here to support those humanitarians in these companies and their projects. But the more I got into it, the more I realized, the talent loop becomes a humanitarian project. And then I met some, what I believe are some really true humanitarians out there, and how big their plans are. And when they would start telling me about their projects, names would start popping in my head. I mean, 20 years worth of working with people, I have a very vast database, and I'm like, oh man, this person would just love that, So there's no question. I can see the matches coming quickly. I call them connections. I don't like to use match. The connections coming quickly of people that will resonate with our humanitarian projects. Truly will be work they love, and it's fulfilling. You're giving back, and there's also projects. And a couple of them that I'm going to be working with and incorporating their programs into the talent loop will provide the income streams that we've talked about, the benefits we've talked about, so that those are no longer issues.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
No longer issues for fulfilling work. But I also know that a lot of the humanitarians I've visited with, one of their big concerns is, how am I going to find these people? And I'm like, that's what we're here for. We're going to just build it for that.
That is so amazing. And I thought about that exactly. And here's the other thing that I want to add, that all of a sudden this brain thing is that if we start speaking, I've been telling people about humanitarian work. I've been talking about if you could do whatever you wanted, time and money weren't going to be an issue, but that you could go and change the world and leave your footprint and help people, what would it be? And so I've got a lot of people that are I posted on Facebook, I probably had 100 replies. And so I printed it all out so that I know. And then my idea is, when you have your database of humanitarians, then I have these, me and others, hopefully, will have all these people who are looking for something that will fulfill their heart. Then you can just connect the dots across the board, right?
Yes, exactly. And I didn't include the big piece, and this is where I was really looking for, funding to accelerate what we're doing, is we're building a software and a technology to make this connection automatic.
Wow.
So those databases you talk about, there's an app that the person can, and it'll match through that. So that's ultimately where we're going, to where it just becomes instantaneous. And I said, there should not be job openings. Because we're always filling the pipeline. I always say, once that connection's made, the relationship needs to begin. So once the connection's made, they start I said, I don't care if you don't have an opening right now. You start building the relationship, because you will have an opening at some point.
Right.
And so it's all about the relationship. We connect and then build the relationships.
And with all the dating apps and all those things out there, I'm sure it's almost like taking, Match.com or whatever those are and making it about work. That is an amazing idea.
Yeah, and then on the company side, or the humanitarian project side, they'll have a little more sophisticated software and dashboard, where we can get, as we grow it, a little more tweaking as far as, maybe by industries, geography, skills, things like that. But the other beauty of the technologies and things that are coming is, skills don't really matter. I always say, lack of skill doesn't make you unqualified. If it's something you've always wanted to do, and you're pursuing that, for the most part, you can quickly be trained. There's no more, I got to go back to school for this. It's, oh, in 8 weeks, I'll be able to perform that
I
position,
know.
you
I
know.
know.
So that's also, we're building that in, and we're building in a system. I always liken it to a ball team where you always have a first, second, and third string. So there's always someone training for every position. And so it's quickly, able to fill that position and bring them up to speed. So,
Oh
so
my
there's a lot
gosh.
behind it, but the technology piece is what will help us accelerate all of that.
So what's your
So,
time frame getting all that out?
well, time and money will go hand in hand, but once we're already building the community because we've got to start there. And there's, 'cause we'll have to do some of this connecting manually first. So we are looking for, I'd said 10 beta clients. I've already, from a humanitarian standpoint, have more projects than that, but we'll kind of build manually as we get the software going. The app we should be able to have out in 6 months or
Wow.
less. My goal going into this was to have the app live before the end of the year, and so so that's where everyone in the talent community is going to kind of have first access, and they'll also be testing all this for us, so they get to kind of see this first. And same with our humanitarians and our companies, because I've got some companies already established that have also expressed interest, and so we'll be working with them as well.
Oh gosh, that's so exciting because I was thinking in my head, and I kid you not, Karla, I was thinking in my head with all my clients, well, how am I going to connect them with the right people if they don't fit into my project? But how
Uh-huh.
am I going to connect them with the right people? And then all of a sudden I had this epiphany with you, and I'm like, I know now,
Yep.
So when the timing's right, I will make those introductions, and
Uh-huh.
that will be super exciting. I'll have to let them know.
Great. Yes. And so one of my goals right now is trying to get our community built. I put out a pretty bold goal of 1,000 members in 30 days, just because I want to be ready. And it starts with the individuals. So they need to get in here and start going through the process of what are my core values. And I said, you can't have personal values and work values. You need to have your values, and
Mm.
and build work around that. So I'm trying to build a community and get that going as quickly as we can so that we're ready to roll when the projects start coming in.
Cool. Well, I have a document that I created a long time ago that I'll share with you,
Okay.
about so my business has been High Energy Girl for, I don't know how many years, a long time. And gosh, I don't even remember how long it's been. But we have our whole mission statement, value sheet, and all of that. So I'm going to share that with you. And then our little mascot is my little Wonder Woman, because we can put up the cuffs and deflect anything and everything that comes our way.
Sure. Great.
So,
Yeah.
but it's all about helping women age stronger and healthier instead of sicker and weaker,
Hmm.
which is the current model, right?
Yes, and that's why I love that when I saw that on your site, because for me, life begins at 50 as far as the next stage. And for so many women, when you look at some of your most successful business women, a lot of them were 50 or 50 plus, because that's when your children are raised and they're on their own, and you can transition to a new phase of life. And the word retirement, I can't imagine even now, coming into play. So I think that's great what you're doing. And also that's the other thing. When I start talking about the talent community, people immediately say, oh, well, I'm not looking for a job, or I'm retired, or all the reasons why it wouldn't fit for them. And I said, that's not what we're about. I said, if you've ever worked, if you're pursuing work, it's for you, because if your dream job is to work part-time on a garden or farm, or do something like that, we're going to have that. If
Mm-hmm.
but you need to be active and have something to do. So maybe you're just going to contribute a few hours, but you also may be looking to be a part of a a huge new development. I work with a lot of engineering and construction people, so I'm excited about some of the new things that are coming that we can use in energy and construction and all those kind of things.
Yeah, and it's really a thing that people don't realize. They work all their life so they could retire, right? But when you retire, you die. I mean, you're either growing or you're dying. Nothing stays stagnant. And so people need to realize that retirement is really literally oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes it's like a death sentence because there's a piece of your limbic brain that needs to be used or needs to be needed. And so whether you reduce your hours a little bit or whatever, but also oftentimes they want that because they have no energy, they don't feel good, they have aches and pains. So those are the root causes of why they want to actually get there. And if they're not working a job that they love and they can't wait to get out of bed every day, then of course they want to retire because they don't love it. So find that love and that passion, and you will actually age in reverse. You will actually be younger. There's a great book called Younger Next Year that addresses all this. Oh, you read it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think the key is to reignite the creativity. They start them in school, taking the creativity out of kids, and it continues all the way through the corporate world to not necessarily think for yourself and those kind of things. So that's where we want you to dream. We want you to reignite your creativity and bring that back. And sometimes you're not ready to do that till you've quote unquote retired from that job, to the next one. So, I think there's so many things that people can do to serve and be significant. And so you're never too young, you're never too old. And that's why we want that mix in the community, because we also want people to be helping each other and giving back. So
yeah. Oh boy, it's so exciting to see where we're going to be going from this. You know what I mean? It's so exciting to step into that next reality. So how can people start taking that course, find you, do this whole core value training? What's the next step?
Come out to thetalentloop.com and you can, take a look at the website, and our plans are there. You can join the community there, or you can join the email list if you just want to get the news from us as we expand and bring on new companies and just the new thing. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to hold an event this year. Obviously, we didn't do anything last year when we launched, but in our events will be, keynotes and motivational, but we also will have some of our partners there for breakout sessions and training and those kind of things. So we're still looking at that, but hopefully we'll be able to do something before the end of the year. And then next year we'll be doing events quarterly throughout the country. I'm eventually globally. I get a lot of requests outside of the United States, and I said we're not there yet, but that's where we plan to go. So we'll get there, and because we want to meet people. Like I said, it's all about the relationships. And so but head to the website, thetalentloop.com, and you can check it out from there.
And that's both for people looking to work and people that have the need for those people, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And then I'm on LinkedIn under Karla Degginger. We have a company page. We have a page on Facebook. To be honest, I'm transitioning everything off of there, and have found a great private network where we house our community and our course. And so, but you could find us there, but I would encourage LinkedIn more so. Yeah.
Okay, LinkedIn. Okay, that's good to know. Well, obviously it's career, so it would be LinkedIn.
Yes.
So
yes, that's where my biggest network is over the years. So yeah.
I need to remember to go on there. We post a lot, but I just forget to go and be a part of it. So
right.
Telegram's my new favorite.
Yes, I'm on there. To be honest, I haven't even looked if they have a company, if you can set up anything with a company page or anything like that on Telegram. I just follow, I'm in a couple groups. Obviously, we're in the same group together, one of them. And so, that's really for me, it's my education source. That's where I've learned so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how I I don't know how I even ended up there, but I'll tell you, I'm on there like first thing in the morning. I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes I have to get away just to shut down, but I'm there. I'm there several times a day usually.
Yeah,
So.
me too. Well, Karla, I am so excited to work with you in the future. I know that that is absolutely going to happen. There was a reason why we connected today, and I'm a big believer because my project is going to end up being pretty big. What I want to do, obviously, with one of our mentors or whatever, but also like my personal wellness center project. And here's a funny story for you. So back before I knew anything about any of this, okay, I started a nonprofit called Healthy Hope.
Okay.
And it was meant to help widows. So I give them my coaching program for no cost. So, and little did I know what it's actually going to evolve into, which is, my whole wellness center concept. But, so it will be called Healthy Hope. But it's just so funny that I started the nonprofit before I even knew really what it was going to be about,
Yeah, and same here. That's how I feel about the talent loop. I mean, I had a vision for this in 2018 with no clue of the world I was going into. And but once I started learning, I'm like, oh, this is making more sense now as to how this will fit in. And not only fit in, be, I think, a very key part of helping. So.
Oh, yeah. Huge part, because we're all going to need workers. We're all going to need help. And especially, there's going to be a big need. So that's cool. Well, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show, Karla. I'm super excited to, work with you in the future.
All right, Tracy, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and getting a chance to share a little bit with your audience. I really appreciate that.
Okay, that was fun. I'm so excited to work with her in the future for these humanitarian projects that I know you've heard me mention before. So remember, if your heart is telling you need to be doing something else, maybe in addition to what you're doing in the beginning or maybe instead of, please consider just looking at your life and deciding what it is you really want to do, what lights you up, what makes you happy. And I'm sure that there's a humanitarian project out there waiting for you. It is coming, you guys. We are right around the corner. So just get excited and hold your vibration high. All right, you guys, thanks so much for listening, and go out and make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.